I think you did, so I think that's
I think
again,
you're right.
Yeah,
I don't wanna come back with something that's different again,
right.
Yeah.
cause I talked about like open space,
So remember that 6
deed
months.
restricted, yeah, no, deed restricted in the backyard, and whether that was an issue and he felt it was, you weren't, so I'm just saying, where do we,
I'll pull out the summary from that meeting for you guys and share it with everyone. Because I think that's where you had talked about
Yeah, I do
being
refer to
okay
it
with the
that
smaller
way.
lot sizes for the singles if
Yep.
it meant preserving hedgerows.
Yep, yep.
So,
no, that's all, I just wanna know, I'm not, again, I just wanna know. We would like to give you a plan that you like and say, yeah, let's move forward. So I will send an email to Tracy for dissemination with what I think the open questions are and my comments on them. And then look for some feedback whenever that is, and I'll ask it on the next agenda. It sounds like you guys are meeting in July, not for me. I mean, you're already meeting, I should say already meeting, so if it's okay, I'll come back to that meeting and go to conversation again.
Okay.
That work?
Now, you were kind of leaning toward, I want to drop the age restricted. What does that gain you? I mean, from our first meeting, I thought that the age restricted thing was your house design. It had a
Yes.
first floor bedroom, now what,
Yes, no, that's a good question. I'm glad you brought it up. Where I'm coming from is I just need sooner or later to get a couple things that we say, these won't change. Because then I can make all the other adjustments you want, knowing what won't change. Right now, everything can change. So you pull here and it pulls this and then that's not right. The age restricted, I proposed saying, look, if you're gonna have these houses, you do age restricted, these people are leaving for work, some still go to work in the morning, but a lot of them are leaving later in the day. If you're concerned about traffic, gets rid of that. They still own them, they're still paying their taxes, it's good for the township that way. You don't have kids in the school. So I was supposed to be a compromise. Township said, no, we're not interested in age restrict. Again, I don't even put words, but that's what I took away. So I said, well, how about try to still make it a little bit more palatable. We'll offer age-targeted housing because you're gonna naturally bring some people in. You have a townhome first floor bedroom, there's gonna be people interested in that are over 55 because they don't need to do steps. So I'm just saying that way you offer it, you try to bring some people in, that helps with the traffic, helps with the other. And it was just offered, it's not a benefit to me, it was offered as a way to try to make this work. And if we're talking about, hey, we want bigger side yards, we want deeper yards, whatever else, well, if I get rid of those wide townhomes with a first floor bedroom, I have more room to shift into everything else. That's the only reason. I just gotta know what are our sacred things we're not gonna mess with and what's not. And I think I'm walking out of here saying, I'm gonna look at that memo that Tracy circulated and say, okay, this is what we're working with as far as the lots, whatever. First, everything else is kind of fair game. We gotta try to come up with what we think you're gonna like. Is that right?
We don't know ourselves.
Say that after I leave.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, please.
The current sewer plant,
Yep.
I'll admit I don't do maths very well. Is that where this here? Like, I'm kind of seeing
Yeah, I just don't-
41 through 40, let's call it
Yeah,
47.
you're correct. We're ignoring it because it would go away and be cleaned up.
Okay.
But you're down, yes, correct, you're down there now. That's
Okay.
correct. The logic, take a look at the memo. Obviously, we gotta work together and I gotta listen to what you have to say. But the idea is, from my side, eliminate that completely, have it all go to the new plant, clean that up environmentally, whatever else, and then turn it into part of the development. That's why it looks
That's
the way
why I
it
was
is.
just trying to figure out
That's
where it was
correct.
on the map.
That's correct.
I don't know if this helps, but does it make sense to tell them that we don't want to count the garages and parking
That's-
lots?
Anything you can tell us
Should
is
be
helpful.
two and 2.25, just like.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna be honest, 2.25 doesn't work in the crossing. We
22
have 330 homes and
20.
we're parking all over the place and, you know,
Do you have garage, I don't even know, is there garages there?
Do you have
There-
that number of spaces, 2.25?
Yep.
Do you have garages?
only a few do.
Okay.
There-
I don't know, I'm
yeah,
just
there's-
asking a question.
I'd say probably 15 to 20 homes do maybe.
Okay.
And that might even be.
essentially none, out of
Yeah.
300, so essentially
Yeah.
none.
But, I mean, they don't, most of them park in the driveway and then
Yeah.
the HOA assigned spot is the driveway and right in front of the driveway.
Mhm.
But, I mean, you know, we could probably do honestly, on a good day with another 40 spots in that development, and maybe we'd have not people parking all over God's creation.
But then I think it comes back to the comment where you had said, you know, that we're going back to the original ordinance. I don't know that ultimately that's where we want to come out, because right now, you don't require nearly enough parking spaces. We're saying we need to get more than what you require. So that we will work together and find a way, because this has to be a community that works when we're all done.
Yeah.
So right now, we're allowed 2 per townhome, 1 in the driveway, 1 in the garage. That's not gonna work, but that's what you require.
The ordinance says that, one in the garage.
So garages are counted as parking spots.
Now, you can talk to your solicitor, and you can review that, Ed Mullen's happy to talk to you, you guys can go, just verify it. And again, I tell you my opinion, and Ed Mullen, Carl is here tonight, but you weren't in that meeting when we had that conversation, I'm not gonna put you on the spot. You were ready to go through the ordinance and verify that and talk to Ken and whatever else. But we're not trying to force that, we know that doesn't work. So we're saying, well, your ordinance doesn't work in some areas from your side either. We think we can come up with something that works better for everybody.
Which, I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
but which sections would have garages potentially?
We would propose every single house has a garage. Every townhome has at least 1 garage, every single family home has at least 2 garages.
Okay, thank you.
That's our proposal.
By the way, I will pipe up and say one thing, and that is, in an HOA, it's pretty common to have a covenant that says that garages must be used for parking, they can't be used for living space. So that frees up people from loading up the garages, with stuff, and the garage remains open as a parking space, and that's something the HOA can enforce. So, just putting that out there.
Okay, in a perfect world, yeah.
You gotta put like clear panels in the garage or whatever.
Hey, I've seen clear garage doors now,
I live in a townhome community, and I know that, and they have single-car garages for all of them. And, yes, there are some folks that don't park in their garages, but there are some that do. So I don't think it's fair to say 100% of townhome folks don't use their garages. But a percentage, I would agree. I know that myself, my neighbor, and the neighbor next to me, probably at least the whole building parks in our garages.
That's just because she bought a new car, so.
Yeah, well, that's. So, question 2 about the road width. If you're not looking to have parking on the roads, maybe the road width narrows a bit to discourage that parking on the road. And then you can make that up in the driveway lengths and things like that. The driveway length and the sidewalk.
That won't help fire trucks, will.
It's a,
No, it still has to be wide enough for the fire truck,
Yeah,
no
yeah.
question, we're not asking less than that.
what would be the minimum with no parking on either side? 26?
If you don't want parking on the road, I would strongly suggest that you clearly do not make it wide enough for anyone to park on the road.
The 2 engineers are agreeing, right, you're saying what Susan says makes sense.
If you make it marginal, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
we'll
which
check with
is,
the fire chief as far as what his
Yeah.
minimum
We'll
width is.
try to get you that.
We would welcome that earlier, I mean, just because it helps us come back with more information. You know, right now, we're talking about setbacks, I know we don't want to get into the details of the weeds yet, but when we're talking about how long the driveway is, the road width is gonna matter there, you know, to know what fits, you know, how deep the lots are, you know, how big the backyard is, all those things we do, the more we can factor that in, the better.
I just want to point out, does anybody know Wagner Road? You know how that road is? You know how wide it is? And they still park on both sides of the road. And when they park on both sides of the road, you can't even hardly get a fire truck through,
That's,
or a regular car through.
that's New Hanover Township, right?
That's in New Hanover, yeah.
I see it both ways. If you make them narrow, people are still gonna park out on the street. It's happens down Kirkland crossings and all. People's mentality and thought today is different. The other part is, we don't have a police department, so it can't be enforced. So, if there is per se a fire or something, or emergency, what do?
The state police won't enforce it in private roads.
No. So, if you go too narrow and then they park, I mean, I understand why some of these roads that go over water, they narrow them down purposely. But I don't know, I mean, like the road is wide, and you can look at the skid marks all up and down there. They're inviting, so, and I see it go too big, so, again, what is the right answer? I don't know.
I mean, that's the thing, we have to look at that and, you know, there's gotta be a happy medium. Maybe that's their own choices of words, but, you know.
And I don't know.
I can speak from
HOA
experience in
can-
the crossing.
They can. I mean,
You
that's,
pull
Well,
a car across
you know,
the curb,
again-
you can't get across with both sides.
Again, they can, but does it happen?
it does. I mean, I'm telling you, I represent many HOAs, and parking is something that's enforced. And if you talk about neighbors, talking about neighbors, and this one's using their garage, and this one is parking in the wrong place and all that, that happens all the time in HOAs. And they issue fines, and they tow cars, and it gets enforced.
What kind of HOAs are these? Are these more high affluent areas or?
No, I represent all kinds, from the highest, the most affluent areas to, you know, affordable housing, HOAs, and they all, you know, those are the types of things that HOAs are there to enforce. You walk around, the property managers are there.
I don't, it's already past my bedtime, but how do you get a low life like me in there? And you try to, make me, I can just see the way things are going now, that people are not like they were once before, where you talk to them and make some sort of, I hear it at the meetings.
Matt, the more your car's missing, you'll think twice about it next time.
Yeah, you get a big
No, the
fine.
HOA ends up with a lawsuit.
Yeah,
They're done.
okay. Anything else for us tonight?
I do, one
Yeah,
other thing that's
please.
gonna be important
Yeah.
is that parallel road and the
Yes.
location of it. I don't have any idea.
Are we addressing that with the traffic study? If the traffic study says it works without, can we deal
I
with it
think
that
the
way?
traffic study has to sort of answer that.
Okay.
And Colonial Road, use it, don't use it. Have you done the traffic study?
No, we will. We need to come up with a density, if they're enough in a use, obviously. Apartments generate different traffic than a single versus a townhome versus a whatever. But we'll work off of some number for now and see where it goes and tweak accordingly. Great, thank you very much.
Something else to consider, one last thing, is, and this will be a Susan issue, but the other thing that's gonna come up is speed. People flying through it after it's done, and we have residents in here complaining about the speed in there. Something I recently saw up at Penn State's main campus, what they did is they put speed tables in. They did not depress the crosswalks. They made the crosswalks speed tables and made them at grade with the sidewalk, and it's pretty cool. I walked that and I thought that was a really, and not necessarily applicable in all situations, but in a townhouse situation, at your intersections, you're putting a speed table in there,
8 inches?
8 or 7.
Yeah.
But they had
Yeah.
ramps that were probably 6 to 8 feet,
Yeah.
and you could drive them. You couldn't drive them in an excessive speed, but it allowed you, because one of the bad problems you have in townhouse communities is from an ADA standpoint, having to depress them. You're up and down, you're up and down. You have somebody that jogs, they're gonna be doing face plants all the time. Because of that, you can't tell that the sidewalk's doing that. So if you keep them up, you have to deal with your beauty strip and your ramp to get back to your sidewalk. But if you take those crosswalks, you paint them, just like a crosswalk, but you raise them as a speed table. What they did up at Penn State, I thought was really cool, and I'm probably one of the few people that recognize something like that because of what we do. but-
Right, it sounds good, but we were proposing the road curb with the sidewalk right up against the curb.
Right, so you'd have to get some direction.
So if we
Yeah, I
deviated from.
personally not a fan of the rolled curb for the reason that that gentleman back there, people tend to, if they feel, depending on where the parking, no parking in the street goes, and if somebody feels like, I just got this new car, I'm parking on the street, so they're gonna be having 2 wheels on the grass strip, 2 wheels in the road, you've got a problem. If you've got a straight curb, you don't have that nearly as much of an issue. I'm not gonna say it's gonna stop it, okay? So then you have to look into the idea of the road width. If you make them too narrow, I don't disagree with what Frank had said, or you just concede and you say, I'll allow you to count a parking space in your garage, but we're gonna have it wide enough that you can park down both sides of the street and still maintain traffic. So, again, I do agree that some of those questions need to be answered.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Tim.
Next week, we like for the time slot, next month is 9 to 11, if we could plan that for next week.
Okay.